M, AV, TV, P. What are all these camera modes? Hi, my name is Ken from Pixzilla. Today we're going to be learning about what the basic camera modes are for capturing images and how to use them. You might be using an old DSLR, an old film camera, a newer mirrorless camera, or even a smartphone. The concepts here carry over in all types of cameras, and reviewing the basics about ISO, shutter speed, and aperture in the exposure triangle will help you with this video. So in many DSLR cameras, there are 4 obvious modes on a dial usually located on the top of the camera. These modes are M, AV, TV, P, and usually a green square mode or full auto. So let's talk about each one of these modes. The first mode is M, which stands for manual. In full manual mode, you have full control of the shutter speed, aperture, and ISO, allowing you to manually adjust the exposure for every shot. Manual mode is the preferred mode for most professional photographers, as it gives them the greatest amounts of flexibility and control for their images. If you're just starting out as a photographer, I recommend that you set a goal to eventually become comfortable with shooting full manual at every shoot, without needing to rely on the camera to do any thinking for you. The second mode is AV, which stands for Aperture Priority. In this mode, you choose the aperture and the ISO, and the camera automatically adjusts the shutter speed for you to ensure a good exposure. This mode is great for controlling the depth of field in a shot. As the photographer, you would set the aperture, telling the camera what you want the depth of field to be, and then the camera would meter the exposure using one of the camera's automatic exposure settings. Now, if you recall, we had discussed in the previous video about evaluative metering, center weight average, and spot metering, and how the camera will try to expose the area of interest as gray midtones in the histogram. The third mode is TV, which stands for shutter priority. So in this mode, you choose the shutter speed, and the ISO in the camera automatically adjusts the aperture for you. This mode is great if you're trying to control motion blur or freeze motion in a shot. The fourth mode is P, which stands for program. In this mode, you would only control the ISO, and the camera would then automatically choose both the shutter speed and the aperture for you to ensure a good exposure. This mode is great if you're trying to quickly capture a shot. The last mode is the green square mode, which is also known as full auto. In this mode, the camera would automatically choose all the settings for you. You would simply point and shoot. This mode is great for beginners or when you need a quick shot, but I do not think that professional photographers should use this mode or rely on it. So set a goal not to use this mode if at all possible. All of the automatic modes of AV, TV, P, and green square mode can be biased by the photographer to lean either towards an overexposed look or an underexposed look. This is done by using the exposure compensation settings in the camera. If you exposure compensate to +1, for instance, the camera will try to lean more towards overexposing. And if you exposure compensate for -1, the camera will try to lean more towards underexposing. In this way, the photographer still has the ability to influence how the camera will choose to expose the scene. Different cameras will have different ways to access these different modes. In the Canon 5D Mark IV, for instance, there's an obvious dial on the top of the camera to access these modes. However, in the Canon R5, the mode is accessed through menus. In the Fuji system, accessing these modes is done through setting the aperture, ISO, or shutter speed to manual or auto to effectively get to the same camera modes as in the other cameras. So that's it for this video. I hope this explains what the camera modes do. As photographers, we should try to retain as much control over our craft as possible, relying on the camera to do our thinking for us only when we're in a very tight pinch. If you enjoyed this content, please do leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. We'll be talking about focusing modes and white balance in upcoming videos, and from there we'll be launching into much more advanced topics. So thanks for watching. I hope you're crushing your photography, and I'll see you in the next one.